All right, after about half an hour of troubleshooting, hopefully we've got the GoPro working now. Alexa, time remaining.
You have 4 minutes and 20 seconds left on your 45-minute timer.
All right, a little less than 5 minutes left on the old laundry timer. So let's go ahead and head over there. I like to get over there when there's a few minutes left on the timer so I can be there to fold the laundry right away when it comes out of the dryer. That way my clothes don't get wrinkled up. So I set up the GoPro, and at first it wouldn't record at all. It kept crashing and the screen would go black. So I reformatted the SD card, and that kind of helped. But then, like, it would record for a minute or maybe a minute and a half, and then it would just stop recording. So I tried swapping it out with a different SD card. We'll see how that goes. All right, I got about 2 minutes left on the laundry timer here, so let's give this a pause. All right. Little known fact, when you're drying towels, they don't actually need to be completely dry. So if you run a big load of towels and they're still a little bit damp, that's fine. You can just fold them up and put them away, and they'll be all right. They usually are not going to mold or anything because the detergent has antibacterial properties in it. One of the nice things about being Magic is that I can fit into this little space between the dryers and the counter here, and I can actually use this counter space to fold my laundry. So I'll just throw it in the sink here. Now when I take my stuff out of the laundry, I always make sure to check right behind the lint filter crease here, because a lot of times a sock will fall in there. And it took me a while to realize that I had to keep buying socks because I was leaving socks in the dryer. The way that I fold my socks is I just stack them up in a cross like this. A lot of people like to take them and they like fold them over like this, but I don't do that because it will stretch out the elastic over time, and it makes your socks wear out a lot faster. So if I'm doing a load of towels and clothes at the same time, I usually fold the clothes first, because that way they don't get wrinkled sitting in the washer or sitting in the dryer. Shirts, turn it right side out. Now I grab it by the sleeve, the shoulder seams, lay it out flat like this. Then I fold the sleeves in and make sure there aren't any wrinkles on the underarm. Then I fold it in like this, and then I just fold it like that. And then that makes it small enough that it fits in a nice tight space, but it doesn't put a lot of creases in it where they're going to be visible on the large flat parts of your body. And the shirts that I wear most often, I usually will hang them up on hangers. And I tend to like to switch between, I have some t-shirts I like to wear, and then like I'll wear polo shirts for a while. So I kind of switch back and forth. So when I moved into this apartment, I had, excuse me, I had another person living with me, and it didn't work out for several reasons. One of the reasons is, you know, the age-old constant, which is you can't really live in a studio apartment with another person. It's never going to work out because there's nowhere you can go to have any privacy. You're always going to be in their face, and eventually you're going to be at each other's throats. It doesn't really matter how kind you are to each other. So living in the apartment didn't really work out. I don't really want to go into much details because I don't want to say anything about the other person. Let's just say it was an uncomfortable situation. But they moved out. Now I have the apartment to myself and all of the rent that goes with it. Bay Area rent, which is crazy. For the rent that I'm paying on this apartment, I could easily afford like a 4 or a 5 bedroom house somewhere in the Midwest, and a car and various other lovely amenities. But, you know, then I would be living in the Midwest. And I tried that and it didn't work out. Part of the reason being that I moved to Oklahoma because that's where I was born and that's where my family lives, but as an adult I have an inner ear problem where whenever there is a thunderstorm, and there are lots and lots of thunderstorms in Oklahoma, there are rapid and extreme pressure changes, and the pressure changes cause me to get really severe headaches. They cause me to get dizzy. And what I found was that I wasn't able to reliably get up and go to work. I had to keep using my sick days, and I was running out of sick days because I would get up in the morning and I would be so dizzy that I wouldn't be able to get in the car and drive safely. So about the time that I figured that out, when it was springtime and the storm started coming in, my manager also told me that the job that I was doing was going to be outsourced to the Philippines, and I said, well, you know, since you're going to be laying me off anyways, and I need to get out of Oklahoma and possibly move back to California, why don't we just let things end here, and then I'll just, you know, I'll go ahead and move while I still have the opportunity to do so. So I left that job, and about that time a friend of mine had an apartment, or not an apartment, but she was buying a house, and she offered to let me move into her house as a roommate, which was really nice. And she was like, you know, I need a certain amount of money in order to be able to make the down payment on the house, and if you can loan me the money, what I'll do is, instead of charging you rent, I'll just pay you back through rent for the next, you know, 6 months or so, or however long it takes to pay the money back. So I moved in there. I helped her to get into the house, and then I moved in. But it was like 2 hours from the Bay Area, which was kind of a tough situation because, you know, the Bay Area is where all of my friends live. It's where all the good tech jobs are going to be. And it didn't take very long of me looking around to figure out that, you know, I probably wasn't going to be able to find a job in that area because there just aren't that many jobs out there. It's like way out in the Orchard area where they have all the farms and stuff, and there's, you know, just not a lot of tech jobs. So looked around for an apartment. It was really hard to find an apartment around here that I could afford on the type of income that I tend to have. And I'd heard horror stories about people who had, just to get into an apartment, they had taken an apartment they couldn't afford, and then they ended up having to break their lease because they couldn't afford to pay the rent a few months later. And I didn't want to do that. So had a friend help me look around and find apartments. I actually had a couple of friends who helped me search for apartments while I was at work. Finally found one And the other person who was my roommate moved in with me. All right, so laundry's all done for now. One of the things that people tend to notice is that when I put away my towels, I take the towels that I just washed and I put them on the bottom of the stack. That way, as I use the towels, they wear evenly. I don't have one towel that's wearing out more than others. And t-shirts, I have a lot of t-shirts. Kind of got that habit from my mom because like back when I was a kid, she used to collect printed t-shirts. So let's find a place to put these. I'll put them right down there. That's where my towels that I didn't wash this time are. So we'll take these, put them on the stack, and then just flip the stack over. Yeah, my sewing machine that I've literally never used. There we go. That way the least used towels are ready to be used. Got my shorts. Bottom of the stack I have some shorts that are different colored so that when I'm wearing those different colored shorts it will remind me that I need to do laundry so that I'll have clean shorts. I got my pants here. These are my polo shirts. I'm going to start wearing polo shirts again tomorrow. Sometimes what I do is like I'll fold the pants on the hanger and then I'll put the shirt on top of it. That way when I come in to get dressed I can just grab one thing off. Saves space, saves time. It's all good. My little chair here. I like to sit close to the floor because it's just more comfortable for me. I have like a regular chair and a table there for when I want to sit up and do office work or whatever. I don't like to have a giant bed because I'm just more comfortable on a smaller bed. And inevitably, whenever I get ready to move again, I don't have this gigantic, monstrous bed that I have to move. I like to keep everything that I own small enough that I can either just pick it up and carry it myself, or I can get it up and down stairs with a forklift or a hand truck. There's no light over here, and I just haven't bothered to get a lamp yet. So what I usually do is just open the closet and turn the light on, because $50 for a lamp, or I can just open the door. So scoot some stuff around here so I can get my sheets on. What was really gross was like shortly before I got my first job, when I moved back here to California from Oklahoma, I got really sick. I got one of the strains of flu that had been going around, or rhinovirus or something like that. But I got really sick, and when my fever broke, I sweated on these sheets, and when I got up to wash them, they were like yellow from all the sweat because I'd had a cold and I was exhausted all the time, and like I didn't really have the energy to get up and bathe. I was just basically just laying around guzzling water and cold remedies for weeks. And then I finally got up and looked at them when I was feeling well again, and the haze went away from all the cold medication, and I was like, oh my God, that's gross. These need washing. So that's what I did. But the unfortunate thing is that I didn't get around to washing them until like 3 weeks later, because I wasn't actually sleeping on that bed anymore. This was way out, 2 hours away from the Bay Area where I was staying with my friend. And I'd gotten a job, and they told me, well, we're going to have you start in 2 weeks. And I was like, cool, that'll give me time to find an apartment, wash all of the laundry that's been piling up from when I was sick, and it'll give me time to fully recover and be energetic to go to work. But what actually happened was, they called me 2 days later and they were like, we need you to start tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay, well, there goes all the time I was going to spend looking for apartments, doing laundry, and getting over being sick. I need to get into the Bay Area immediately and go to work. So a friend of mine offered to let me basically just camp out in his bedroom for a while I was working and looking for apartments. And so that's what I did. And I basically had just enough room for like a backpack and an overnight bag. And then when I finally got into this apartment, we were using my roommate's bed. Sheets were packed away, still hadn't been washed. And so got the sheets out, pillowcase, washed and bleached the heck out of them. And now they're all good. They're nice and sanitary and reasonably white. In the summertime, I usually keep the air conditioner on at night. I have it set to like 72 degrees. And then I use this light blanket because I like to be covered up with something reasonably heavy. But I don't use this sheet because these are jersey sheets. They're really warm and thick. And they tend to be too hot in the summertime to use with the blanket. So, and even when I use the jersey sheet just without the blanket, it's usually too hot by itself. So, I just prefer to use the blanket. And then like just keep the sheet under my bed or whatever. It came as part of the set, and I've just never gotten rid of it, even though I don't really use it in the wintertime anyways. In the wintertime, I usually have the heater on, and if I'm going to turn the heater down, I just use another blanket anyways. I never use that sheet, so maybe I'll use it as like a tablecloth for that table or something. Might be a good idea. All right, so laundry is done. Dishes are done. So, like, one of the first things I usually do when I move into a new place is I get a dish drainer because it reduces the steps that I have to go through to wash the dishes, because I can just hand wash them and then I can put them in the rack and let them air dry, and then I just put them away like in the next morning or whatever, instead of having to dry every one of them and put them away. And I always keep a towel hanging either on the oven handle, if the oven has a handle with a hole through it, or I hang it on the refrigerator door. And this is like my utility towel. I use it to dry my hands after I wash them in the sink or after I wash a dish. Use it to wipe up small spills on the counter. Use it to handle the teapot so I don't burn my hand. Incidentally, teapot is another one of the small essentials that I like to have because, it's good for all kinds of things. You can boil water for noodles, make tea, make coffee, whatever you want. And I think that's all of my chores done for today.